What's going on, everybody? My name is Derailious. Welcome back to another video. Today is going to be pretty simple. We're just going to be going over a few things that I think the game really needs in the coming months. Things that'll really flesh out the game, and I think will add a lot more daily repeatable content. And I feel like that's something we need and could also be relatively simple to implement as well. Before we begin, I'm obviously going to do the bit because we are getting very close to 10k. Only a small percentage of you fellas are subbed. So hit that button down below. It really does mean a lot. We're getting very close. We're only about 900 away from 10k. I don't know what I'm doing at 10k, but we'll see. As well, I have a Discord, Twitch, and Twitter down below, so please make sure you follow those. Without further ado, though, let's get right into this. So the main and most important thing that I think Skyblock needs in the coming weeks and months is daily and weekly repeatable bounties. For anyone who's ever played Destiny or any other major MMOs, you know what bounties are. They're basically easy, simple, repeatable activities that one can do to earn a small or medium amount of coins and money or loot in those games. I think something like that is really necessary in Skyblock, and I'm actually shocked that we haven't received something like that since the beginning of the game. Obviously, adding skill XP as a reward for something like that would be a really easy and simple overall system for allowing us to have something to do on a daily basis. For example, when I stream, sometimes I completely run out of things to do just because I'm just bored of doing dungeons and don't want specifically to do anything else. So when those times happen, I feel like instead of just getting burnt on the game, having something like a daily bounty system where you can get a certain number of pieces of wood or a certain type of a block or do a dungeon run or something like that would definitely add a lot of flavor and life back into the game. Obviously, adding skill XP stuff on this would probably be really nice, especially for things like foraging, because if there are people running around that are literal bots trying to find foraging XP, that's when you know that foraging has a major problem, and it's kind of unrelated to the players themselves. And that's going to tie into my second point, and I think that the park needs a complete and total makeover again. And I don't necessarily mean that in a visual sense or even in a philosophical sense of what it does. I think the park does an excellent job for what it's attempting to do. And I think the problem here is really foraging XP as a whole. The ways that it's earned and the amount that it's earned in is just generally not enough. There's not enough variety of content there. It kind of just feels like you're meaninglessly just hitting the same block over and over again. Alchemy has this problem to a lesser extent, although alchemy subverts this problem by just being way simpler to level because it doesn't require as much time or money to actually do. With alchemy, you can basically spend an hour and a half maybe at most and get all the way to level 50, although foraging takes at bare minimum 50 times that and probably closer to 100 hours because people aren't perfect and aren't meant to be grinding the same piece of content over and over again. Obviously, I know a lot of people have hit foraging level 50 and it may just sound like I'm complaining about this specific skill because I'm bad, but aside from the fact that I am bad, I think that this does need improvement. My personal idea for it being improved was generally a system of actual foraging and hunting. Sort of like, I don't know, an Easter egg hunt. For example, with the new builder's hut thing that we got with the community center a few months back, I feel like the heads that are in there, which are basically just heads of different crops, could be placed around the park and hunted for over a small period of time for a large bonus to skill XP. Maybe giving you 1,000 to 2,000 foraging XP per item found, and maybe the event happening every 20 to 30 minutes, kind of like the farming events. I feel like the farming event is an actual excellent step forward, and I feel like eventually getting something like that for every type of skill would be really, really cool and generally help out the game. I know that farming events don't actually increase skill XP per the farming event, but in theory they also increase XP because they actually get a reason to go farm. And that's something we need. We need reasons to actually go out and do these skills. Skill grinding's fun and all for the flex, but I feel like a lot of players want a reason to keep playing the game, and adding these daily and weekly bounties and also improving the park in this way would definitely help with that. I haven't been here in a long time, and I think that kind of says something about the game. I think that the Nether Fortress, while already a good idea, was executed pretty poorly, and that's not really the fault of anyone, not even the devs. The devs never would have known that the game would have blown up like it did, and Skyblock in its infancy was a very different game to how it is now. And the Blazing Fortress kind of just suffers from the problem of it hasn't really been changed since launch. The closest thing we've gotten to an update is the magma boss getting some minor changes and eventually having its loot neutered, completely removing the ember rod from being able to, be received, and kind of just making the entire island pointless except for a few fairy souls and El of the Nether, which is an NPC, which basically does nothing. Obviously, daily bounties could definitely improve this, but there are a couple other things that I want to mention that I think could add some beneficial sort of systems to the game. I feel like the ability to summon a wither boss here would be a neat idea, although I do understand that there are already a large prevalence of withers in the catacombs and we might end up getting wither fatigue. However, I do at the very least believe that the mobs of the Blazing Fortress should definitely receive some upgrades. The fact that that level 10 Wither Skeleton there only has 250 health kind of feels, well, very upsetting. And I don't think that this should be a place that is just able to be conquered by literally anyone, not even mid-game players. While I do believe you should be able to start the island off at mid-game, you should be able to progress through it and get to end-game areas. And a lot more variety in the sort of things you do could be pretty cool. I would also like to see more weapons and armor based in this area. The aesthetic of this island is really, really pretty, and it's just generally a shame that it's not used to its fullest extent. There's a lot of concepts that you could use in the Nether. You could expand that fortress over there and add new items. You could add random loot chests which spawn across the island and have a small period of time for you to get them. You could even add an arena mode where players can go in and fight solo content by themselves, sort of beating wave after wave of Nether mobs coming at them. There's a lot you could do here, and I just generally feel like this place is underutilized, and that's why I think it's actually going to be receiving an update pretty soon. I don't know specifically what we're going to get with this new island but not island content, but I hope it at the very least increases the use of some island. I feel like we have a lot of islands like this, places like the deep caverns, which, although useful to some extent for certain events, don't actually have an everyday sort of use to every player. I want more things to do in Skyblock, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I want, for example, a ton of new islands. I want more reasons to play the game, not necessarily new places to see. Although it would be nice to have new places to go, a revamp of something like this would be more than enough to satisfy me, and probably a lot of other people in the community. On that note, my name is Derailious. Thank you so much for listening to this dumb little rant. If you have any ideas or any comments, please leave them down below. Once again, thanks so much for watching, and peace out, everybody.